Hey everyone, welcome to this really special video where I'm going to take you through every single stage of the tattoo process that I personally do when taking on a portrait job. In this video I'm going to start from the very beginning of the tattoo process where I get the original reference image and I edit it with Photoshop to get it in better shape to tattoo. From there I'm going to be guiding you through the making of the stencil, the printing of the stencil, the prepping the skin, the laying the stencil on the skin. I'm going to be showing you all the equipment that I use, and then finally I'm going to be actually performing the tattoo whilst giving commentary on top of this video. A lot of the techniques I use in this video can be found in my other videos, but don't worry because I'll be putting cards up on the screen as we go along, and then you can click on those and they'll take you to the relevant video after you've watched this one. Now guys, I've put a lot of time and effort into this video as I do all my videos, so if you do like it, please hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel, and I'll keep you updated on all future videos because I've got loads in the pipeline. And this video, if it does help any of you out, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, so feel free to comment in the box below. With all that said guys, let's not waste any more time. I'm super excited about this video and let's get straight into it. Okay guys, so this is the original reference image that was tasked to tattoo. It's Gary Oldman, one of Bram Stoker's Draculas. And all I'm doing at the moment is I'm in Photoshop CS5 and I'm just cropping the image down to make it more manageable to tattoo. And once I've cropped that down, the first thing I do is back up the layer. So I'm going to duplicate that layer so I've got an original copy just in case I need to revert back to it for whatever reason. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a layer between those two layers. To do that you press Ctrl Shift and N to make a new layer, and then I'm just going to make that layer just blank white. So you can see it there, it says layer 1, and all I'm going to do is take my paint bucket and fill it white, and then I'm going to bring back the other layer on top. So first of all I'm going to go to Image Adjustments, Brightness Control, and I'm just going to lighten up the image and just monkey around with it a little bit just to bring out the contrast in it and to get a few more shades that I can pick out for tattooing. And then I'm going to go down to black and white to make the actual image black and white, and you've got a few settings there but I'm just going to keep it as default. And then I'm going to go back to Image Adjustments, Brightness and Contrast, and then I'm going to mess with it a little bit further, and you can see as I'm adjusting the contrast there, it's obviously affecting the image. And what I'm doing, I'm picking out shades in the face, and I'm just looking for different contrasts, which is going to make the tattoo easier to pull off. Now I've selected Eraser, and I'm going to select a soft edged brush on the eraser, and I'm just going to start getting rid of all the background because I don't want the background in this image. And the reason I select a soft edge because it just gives it like that nice blended look rather than a hard edge to the image. So this reference image now is really coming into its own, and it's looking like an image that's definitely good to tattoo, especially for a black and grey portrait. Looks like I've just finished that there. And then I'm happy with that. So I'm going to go to Image Adjustments, and one more time I'm going to go to Brightness and Contrast and just mess with it just a tiny bit more. I'm really focusing on the shades in the face at this point because it's really important that you pick out all those shades and the shades are actually there in the face to pick out and you're not guessing them. And now all that's done, there's one thing left to do, is to save the image. So I'll go to Save As. I'm just going to name that Dracula Final Reference, and that's all good to go. So that's ready to print out now. So I've got it on the screen there, so all I'm going to do is send it to the printer, print that out, and then I'm going to be making a stencil from this. You can check out my other videos, I put a card up on the screen. If you click that you can save it for later to watch how I do hand-drawn stencils. So there's the reference image. And as you can see there, I've got my reference image, I've got my hectograph paper, and I've also got the image on the screen as well, because obviously on the screen it's a bit higher resolution than it is on the paper, so you can just pick out that little bit more detail when you're cross-referencing it, making your stencil. And all I'm doing, I'm just going around this now, and then I'll show you what it's doing underneath the paper. As I say, you can check out my video for this, it'll go more in depth. You can see that's the start of the stencil, and then it's just a matter of going around picking out all the shades that I need to pull off the tattoo. I'm just towards the end of making the stencil here, and just on the eye. You can see all the dots and dashes in the face now that I've done, and I'll turn that over to show you. And there we have it. So that's our stencil for the portrait. So what I'm going to do with that now is scan it into the computer, and then I'm going to reprint that stencil just on plain paper. So this is my stencil now that I've printed out, and all I'm going to do is just go over this with a pencil like I'm actually tattooing it, just to make sure my stencil works. And like I say, I do cover this more in depth on another video. I'll stick the card up on the screen. Like I say, if you click on that at the end of this video, you can watch, and that's just a quick sketch of my stencil to make it work. I'm happy with that. So all that's left to do now is actually print this stencil onto the hexagraph paper. I'm using a dot matrix printer for this. You can use a thermal printer. I personally prefer a dot matrix printer. I personally think it makes a slightly better job than a thermal printer. That's my printer I'm using, the Panasonic. And I've already measured the client's leg, so I've set the size and the dimensions for it to come out, so it's actually going to fit the client. And there it is, that's my final stencil. So with that, all I've got to do now is prep the skin. So that spray I'm using is just alcohol, standard alcohol spray. And what that does, it gets all the grease off the skin if there's any surface grease or anything like that. The client's already shaved the back of her leg, so didn't need to do that. The alcohol also sterilises the skin as well. And then, as you can see there, I'm just using standard stencil stuff. I'm going to rub that in. I'm going to speed the video up so you can, because obviously it can take a while to rub in and get tacky. And with stencil stuff, you don't want it too wet, you don't want it too dry, you just want it tacky. Here's the actual laying of the stencil now. You can see I'm just hovering that stencil above the skin to start with, just so it's in the right place. And then when it's right, I'll pat it down. And obviously once you pat it down, that's the point of no return. You have to commit that stencil to the skin. You can't be lifting it off and putting it down again, otherwise you're just going to double print it and make a massive mess. If it does go wrong, it's no problem. You can use alcohol, get the stencil off, and then just print another one out and lay it on again. As it happened, this one went on first time. I'm really pleased about that. And then I'm just going to apply a little bit of pressure there, just to get an even pressure on the whole stencil, so it commits to the skin nice. And the important thing, what I'm really looking for is here that the stencil's not actually bleeding out on the skin anywhere, and all the details around the eyes, especially in the nose, have all been transferred to the skin properly. You can see it's ripping a little bit there, and it's purely doing that because I put cuts in the stencil, and it does that sometimes, but I put cuts in it to help it wrap around the skin. So there it goes, that's on the skin. I'm really happy with that. I'm going to let that dry while I set up my equipment. So what I've got here, I've just labelled for the sake of this video so you can see what I'm using, but the black is obviously a dynamic black, you can see that there. And I'm going to use some grey wash. Now this is the Silver Black 6 series, and that's the 666, which is this series is slightly darker than the X series. And then the 666, I really like this grey wash, and obviously you'll see it in action when I tattoo it in a minute. And then a standard 6 as well. So I'm not using a million different shades, you know. I've got a dark, a medium and a light, and then I've got a black, and then just a white at the back there, and that's all I use for this portrait. You don't need a million colours. This is Perfect White by Eternal. I'll just use that at the end of the tattoo for highlights. just like half a cup there, don't need tons of it. And then obviously in my machine there is the Cheyenne pen. I've got a review on that, if you want to check it out. Alright, these needles are Da Vinci needles by Bishop. I got these from my supplier Barber DTS, and these needles are absolutely amazing. The bug pins, this particular one I'm using is a 11 curved bug pin. And then you can see, I say it's a bug pin, it's a 00, also known as 10s. And then I'm also using a bug pin 5 round liner, and they're the only 2 needles that I'll use for this whole tattoo. Again, I don't like to overcomplicate things. I don't need a million machines to use, and it's not because I'm scrimping on equipment or anything like that. It's just that I can pull it off with those 2. So that's on myself there. I've got my Vaseline, obviously got my rinse cup, wash bottle, wipes, reference image, stencil, so I'm good to go. That looks good. So I'm starting from the bottom of the tattoo, like I do on every tattoo, and at the moment I've got the Magnum rigged up to the machine, and with the mag I'd probably use this for about 90% of the tattoo, maybe 95% of the tattoo I'll use this Magnum, and then obviously the other 5% I'll use the liner. But especially with portrait work, I don't line the tattoo as such. I sort of just brush it in, just like gently brush into the stencil, and it gives that nice soft look to the tattoo. Because with realism stuff as well, you know, people in real life don't have outlines, so if you start like lining the faces, you're not going to get that realism look to it when it's finished. It's going to look a bit caricature-y, a bit cartoony maybe. You can see the method I'm using there. I'm just nice gentle sweeping motions. I cover this in depth on another video. I'll stick the card up there. If you click on that, it'll save it for the end of the video. If you haven't seen it already, it's definitely worth a watch. It's about shading techniques, and the shading techniques that I talk about in that video are the actual techniques that I'm employing right now. You can see when I tattoo, I'm actually dabbing the ink there. I'm not wiping down as such. I do wipe occasionally when, you know, when all the details committed to the skin, but when I first start a tattoo, I'm just sort of like gently dabbing the ink off the surface of the skin, and what I'm aiming to do is keep the area where I'm working as clean and as mess-free as possible, because there's nothing worse than having a tattoo that you're doing and you just got mess all over the skin, you've got ink everywhere, you can't see your stencil, and then because the ink's everywhere, it's taking off the stencil, it's dissolving your stencil, and it's just a really bad place to be. So I like to keep my work area, if you like, as clean as I possibly can. You can see that ink is just going into that skin like butter, and those needles they're really coming into their own when I'm doing this tattoo. They're just putting that ink in. The video's been cut there. I've just moved on a little bit more. It looks like I've got the liner rigged up for this bit. This is just the little detail in the brooch on his collar, and just because I've got a liner hooked up to the machine doesn't necessarily mean that I have to line with it. A lot of the time, especially when I'm doing tattoos like these, I'm still doing the shading movements with my hand with a liner. So it's not set in stone that because you've got a liner on, you have to line with it. And you'll see that in a minute. I'm sort of like doing brushing motions with the liner. And if you don't look at the needles like if you don't look at them as needles and you look at them as paintbrushes, you know, it's a better way of like tackling a tattoo. If you need a thinner needle like I do for this part, like I say, I don't necessarily have to line with it. I can still shade with a liner. I'm also very, very cautious. You can see my left hand there resting on the face. and I'm being very, very careful not to smudge my hand up and down on that face, because again, what you can often do is you're concentrating on that much on what you're working on, and you're not concentrating on where your hand is, and then you take your hand away and then you've smudged all your stencil off your face, and that's again, that's a pretty bad place to be, especially if you're doing a portrait tattoo, when that stencil, you know, it needs to be on point, and it needs to be on the skin. And again, you can see how clean my work area is there on the skin. You know, there's no mess, there's no like ink everywhere. See those little sweeping motions I'm doing. I'm not lining that in the conventional way. Just nice little sweeping motions, just getting that ink in the skin. And you can see just how nice that's going. And you know, I'm wiping off, and there's, you know, it's not pitted, it's not mottled or anything like that. The ink's just gone in nice and solid. That bit there looks like I'm actually lining just the top of that bit. You can see the difference where the needle went in and I pulled the line, as opposed to doing a sweeping motion. So now I've done those lines in the skin, I've switched back to the mag, and then I'm going to bring the black up to those lines. You can see that there, I'm angling the mag as well, because again, obviously, you don't have to use the full needles of the mag. You can angle them on the side and get like really sharp bits. There's loads of options with a mag, which is probably why I use it probably about 95% of the time for a tattoo like this, because it's not just a big wide needle. You can use it for all different angles, all different positions, and get different effects with it. You see I'm stretching the skin there, like with my right hand I'm pulling it down, and with my left hand I'm sort of pulling it up. So I've moved on now to the side of the glasses, and I've got my 5 round liner on again now. You can see I'm just edging round the shape of the glasses there. This will be black. I'm using solid black, dynamic black for this part. And again, I'm just dabbing the face, because you don't want to be wiping down on the face and smearing on the nose and stuff. I'm dancing about a little bit more on this stencil for the purpose of this video, really. Usually I'd start from the bottom, strictly stay at the bottom and work my way up, but for this video I wanted to show you different parts of the tattoo I was tattooing, so I did dance around a little bit on it. I'm just going around the side of the face there. Now, the side of the face on this part, on the original reference image, when I lightened it up, you could see there's a slight difference in shade. It goes from like really black, you can see the left side of that where I put it in really black, and then it goes onto the face and it's almost black but not quite, and it gives the illusion that you can see his cheek through the dark sunglasses he's wearing. So I bear that in mind when I've come to tattooing this. So what I've done, I've used dynamic black down that left side, and now what I'm using on the face at the moment is the 666 dark grey wash. And what that's going to do, it's going to give, like say, the effect of the illusion of seeing his face through the dark shades. Whereas if I were to just put it all out in black, I mean, it'd probably still look alright, to be fair, but you wouldn't have that extra detail. And I think with portraits especially, it's all about putting that extra detail in and going that a little bit further with it. You can see those shades there. I just did a pass shading down, sorry, and then I wiped off, and then I'll see where I was. So I've done that again. It looks like it's solid black, so I've just done that shade there, but I'll wipe off again. And then you can see, now you can see the contrast I was talking about. You can see the black to the far left of it, and then you can see almost like his skin underneath, and that's just by flicking between dynamic black and then the 666 dark grey wash. And like I say, it's these little things that you do that make massive differences, especially like with realism tattoos. I'm just gently shading in there, and you can see how easy this grey wash goes in as well. You know, I've only done a few passes there, and that's really dark, but that's what I'm used to using now. I don't use any other grey wash other than that. And I think people, you know, you get used to a grey wash, and then you tend to stick to it because I know how many passes I'm going to do, how dark it's going to be. There's no guessing at it. You can see that I'm checking my reference image, and that's another thing as well. You know, I'm constantly checking my reference image. So I'll do that little bit of black there, and then when I go to dab or wipe the ink, then I'll check my reference image again. I'm constantly checking back and forth. Don't leave anything to chance with a portrait, and all you're doing is going from A to B. You know, sometimes it can get confusing, it can get a bit overwhelming when you've got this big, like, scary, complicated stencil on the skin. Well, I think if you break it up in your mind and you tackle it, like, say, the bit I'm doing right now is the bit that's the most important on this tattoo. So all I'm concentrating on at this very moment in time is just getting this black shading under the peak of the hat, and then I'll do that, and then I move on to the next one, and I block it off, chop it up in my mind like that. I go from A to B, and before you know it, you've got to your end of your tattoo and you pulled it off. So it's definitely one way of tackling it without getting a bit freaked out, going, oh my god, like, I've got all this detail, what do I do? Just concentrate on the bit you're doing, and the bit that you're doing is the most important thing of the tattoo at the time. See that I'm just scooting along the edge of the peak of that cap with my mag. So obviously got the mag on the side there. So this bit now I've come down to the moustache, and I've got my liner on. And there's no lining going on here, even like I say I've got the liner on, but all I'm doing, I'm just gently doing these tiny little brush strokes, just building up that moustache. I don't want to put it in too black, I want a bit of variation in there, just like the reference image. You know, and it's, again, I know I keep saying it, but it's these little details. You could just say, well, okay, the moustache is black, so I'm just going to plough that in black with the liner, and all it'll do will just look like 2D. There'll be no, like, dimension to it. There'll be no depth to it, and it'll just look a bit like stuck on, if you like. It won't be like realism. So again, it's just a matter of, like, building up. You can see all the different shades in there that I'm building up, and all I'm doing with them is I'm flicking between the 666, the 666, and this is the top of the mouth now. Now, when I do anything like this and I'm putting, like, this black in the mouth, I literally check the reference image probably 4 or 5 times before I even lay the needle into the skin, because just to, you know, check again that is definitely where that black's going. Because if you lay that thick black line and it's the wrong place, you've just completely messed that portrait up, and more importantly, you've messed someone's skin up, and it's going to look absolutely ridiculous. So there's nothing wrong in over checking. I personally don't think, anyway. And you know, you can't rush these jobs. They've just got to be done in your own time. And all I'm doing there, I'm shading out. Got the mag back on, and I'm shading off from the black downwards to give the bottom of the lip an effect. And I'm probably using just the single 6 grey wash for that bit there. Let's give it a nice effect. And I've actually crossed over that, so I'm brushing in onto the black and then off of it, away from it. This bit here is this, the shade on the side of the face, and you can see how light that's going in. I'm barely touching the skin, you know, really soft. And then what I'll do is I'll move over to another part, and then I'll check that bit that I've just done in a bit when the ink's settled in. And it's a good way of doing it, so you're not going in too dark. You know, let the shade settle in and then go back to it. Just doing the nostrils here. I've got the liner on. Again, just getting those black bits in. And if you notice, you know, while I'm actually tattooing this, there's not blood, you know, pouring out this person's skin, and it's just going into the skin like just like pen on paper, really. And I think that's a really important point to make. You don't need someone dripping with blood. I've been to some conventions before where people are literally dripping with blood, and if that's happening, something's going wrong. Your machine's running too fast, you're going too deep. But I'm doing the eye here, and you can see I'm just sketching around it, nice and gentle. There's no blood coming out. There's no ink pooling around the skin. Everything's nice and methodical. You can see where I keep stopping because I'm checking and checking and checking again. Because again, the eye, really important part of a portrait. The eye, if not the most important, is part of the portrait. You know, if you mess the eyes up, the whole, because your eyes are naturally drawn to the portrait's eyes. It's the first thing you look at. So they need to be on point. They need to be right. You can see that I've got the liner on, but I'm not lining, I'm just sketching down, I'm just shading with my liner. You can see that ink just going into the skin. There's no redness, it's not raised up. You know, it's just going in, it's just sitting in the skin, really nice. And that's a combination of obviously having the right depth, going into the skin at the right depth, having the machine running at the right speed for whatever you're doing. So it's about having quality needles, it's about using quality ink, and when all those things come together and, you know, all those things align, this is what you get. You don't get any raisedness, you don't get any redness, you just get it going in. I'm just sketching around there, around that highlight. I'm obviously leaving that part blank to put the highlight in at the end there. There'll be a shine in his eye. And you see what I'm doing there? I'm building up that blackness. Rather than just trying to put it in a wanna and just going around it, I'm just slowly building it up. And you can see the skin's not being overworked at all doing that either. You know, some people say, oh, you know, you're doing too many passes, you're going to overwork the skin. Yeah, you can overwork the skin if you do too many passes, but as you can see there, that skin is not overworked at all. It's not raised up or anything. It looks like I'm just sketching along the side of the frame of the glasses with this now. So it's starting to come together, and we're almost at the end of the tattoo. It looks like I'm going to be putting some white highlights in now. And this is the fun part of the tattoo. You know when all the stencil's committed to the skin, and then you just sort of putting these delicate shades in and just refining it basically. This is the part that I enjoy the most of a tattoo like this, is the end. Like I say, when you're just putting all the highlights in. Now you can see I've put the white in there with the liner, and I think the key to putting highlights in at the end, you know, because they are fun to do when you've done your tattoo, and it does bring it to life. It just gives it that extra shine. But the key with white is definitely not to overdo it. You know, I think some people they go a bit over the top with white. And to the point where it doesn't really have as much of an effect as if you just pick out just a few places that you want the white to be. It's just a personal opinion, but I think you can overdo it with it. You can see the shine on the eye there. Look at that; it just looks like it's shining. And just those few little bits of white there on the frame. You know, I'll also come down and put some in the hair as well in a moment. I'll talk you through that when it gets to it. I'm just those little few there, and I can't stress enough. You know, I mean, you can see the skin, the person's skin there in the face where those light shades are. There's no redness. It's not raised up or anything. You know, so again, if you are like getting skin raised up and stuff like that, just rethink it. You know, just check your machine, check your equipment, check your ink, because this is what you should be getting. You shouldn't be working against yourself. coming down, this is that the brooch thing that he's wearing on his collar, so I'm just putting a few highlights in there as well. Just dancing around with it really, just, you know, getting the odd highlights in. You can see just with those in, it just gives it more of a 3D look to it. So I'm coming on to the hair now. And with the hair, I like to highlight parts of it, obviously not all of it, but also when I'm doing a strand of hair, I don't highlight the whole strand of hair either. I sort of, you can see that one there, it obviously starts from the top of the hat, that strand, but I haven't done it from the top of the hat, the highlight. And I think you get a lot better effect doing it that way, because it gives it more dynamicness, it makes it stand out more, gives it more of a 3D look to it. And that'll wipe off, and you can see how the highlights have really brought that hair out, made it look more 3D. And again, I'm doing it around the hair this side, not overdoing it. A little bit of a highlight around this eye here. Here's a little tip, if you like. You don't always have to highlight with a liner. You can sort of brush white in with a mag, and you get like a shimmer effect on it, what I'm doing around the side of the face there and what I've just done on his shirt. You get a really nice effect on it. So it looks like I've finished. I'm just obviously giving the skin a really good wipe down now. That'll be nice and cold for the client. Just cooling it off, getting rid of all the surface ink around the sides of the tattoo, and then I'll be putting some Pro Series tattoo goo foam on. That's the stuff there, and that just freshens up the skin, makes it nice and vibrant. The tattoo just takes all the heat out of the tattoo for the client. It always feels nice at the end of the process. So I'm just going to wipe that off now. And there we have it, guys. That's the portrait completed from start to finish. So if you've enjoyed this video, guys, please hit that thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and there'll be loads more videos coming soon. Cheers, guys.